In the realm of international commerce, George Bennett stood out as a master of his trade, known far and wide for his skill in sourcing the most exquisite produce from across the globe. His ventures led him to the farthest corners of the earth, negotiating deals that seemed beyond the reach of most. Yet his latest journey promised to surpass all others, drawing him to a remote and mysterious island, whispered about in the marketplaces for its unparalleled produce. Little did George know this venture would become his most perilous, challenging not only his business acumen, but the very essence of his survival, as he finds himself entwined in the ancient and dark traditions of an isolated world. A world where the line between life and sustenance is hauntingly blurred. In the heart of the vast ocean lay an island veiled in mystery, known to few beyond its shores. Its lush forests and rich soil were untouched by modern hands, making it a paradise for the most exotic fruits and vegetables. This very allure caught the attention of George Bennet, a seasoned produce buyer whose life's work was to discover and bring the world's finest produce to the global market. George was a man in his mid-40s with a keen eye for quality and an adventurous spirit. His reputation for closing the most challenging deals and his passion for uncharted territories made him the go-to man for sourcing the rarest of edibles. When whispers of the island reached his ears, tales of unique flavors and unmatched quality, George knew this could be the crown jewel of his career. Equipped with nothing but his instincts and a lifetime of experience, George set out to the island. The journey was long and treacherous. As his small boat approached the shore, the island seemed welcoming with its pristine beaches and lush greenery. The locals greeted him with warm smiles and open arms, their appearance humble, their language foreign, yet comforting. The village chief, a man of stature and respect, welcomed George into his home. Over a feast, they discussed the potential of a partnership that would introduce the island's produce to the world. George was ecstatic, his eyes gleaming at the thought of what this deal could mean. The fruits were like nothing he had ever tasted, and the vegetables were bursting with flavors, each bite a testament to the island's purity. As the days passed, George was treated like royalty. The villagers showed him their fields, their methods, and their culture. Yet, amidst the beauty and hospitality, a subtle unease crept into George's heart. Whispers when he walked by, glances that lingered too long, a tension in the air he could not explain. One night, George overheard a conversation not meant for his ears. The deal, the hospitality, it was all a ruse. The island held a dark secret. Strangers were not welcomed for their trade, but for a more sinister purpose. The island, untouched by the outside world, practiced traditions old and barbaric. Strangers were sacrifices to their gods, a feast for the entire village. Panic gripped George's heart. He was alone, a stranger in a land far from home. Escape was his only option, but the island was a maze, its forests thick and treacherous. Under the veil of night, he made his move, his heart pounding against his chest, every sound magnifying his fear. The forest was alive, every shadow a threat, every noise a pursuer. George pushed through the dense foliage, his mind racing, trying to find a way out. But the island was unforgiving, its terrain unfamiliar and treacherous. As the first light of dawn broke through the canopy, George realized the grim truth. He was lost, with no sense of direction, every step potentially leading him deeper into the clutches of the very fate he was trying to escape. Hours turned into days, George's hope dwindling with each passing moment. Hunger and thirst became his constant companions, his body weakening, his resolve faltering. But the human spirit is resilient, fueled by the will to survive to see another day. George pushed on, driven by thoughts of his family, his life beyond the island, a future that was hanging by a thread. George's attempts to blend into the shadows of the night were in vain. The island, with its whispering winds and rustling leaves, seemed to communicate his every move to its inhabitants. The villagers, adept in the ways of their land, were not mere farmers, but also guardians of their sacred traditions, deeply entwined with the darker aspects of survival and ritual. The moon hung high, a silent witness to the unfolding chase. George, driven by primal fear, found his mind oscillating between the civilized negotiations of his profession and the raw instincts of a hunted animal. Each snapped twig under his foot, each hurried breath seemed to echo through the island, a sonorous alarm to his pursuers. The chief, who had once welcomed him with open arms and warm feasts, now led the chase. His eyes, once friendly and inviting, now burned with a fervent zeal, the zeal of a man protecting centuries of tradition. The villagers, his family, his children, all joined in the pursuit, their faces not of anger or hatred, but of a solemn duty to fulfill what they believed was the will of their gods. As the relentless chase continued, George's body began to betray him. Dehydration, exhaustion, and despair took their toll. The once vibrant and cunning produce buyer who had traversed the globe negotiating the price of life's sustenance now found himself devoid of any bargaining power, his life hanging by the slenderest thread. There were no cheers of victory, no shouts of triumph, only the solemnity of a ritual that predated their own memories. The chief approached George, his eyes reflecting a mix of respect and regret. Words were exchanged, not in the language of trade or negotiation, but in the universal language of humanity. Eyes that spoke of inevitability, of a life that was about to be surrendered to a tradition misunderstood by the modern world. In his final moments, George Bennett, the seasoned produce buyer whose life had been a tapestry of colorful markets and exotic lands, found himself the center of a ceremony as old as the island itself. As the villagers prepared for the ritual, George looked up at the sky, a canvas of softening blues and pinks, and realized that his final deal had been brokered not with the fruits of the earth but with the earth itself. The island remained shrouded in mystery, its produce untouched by the world outside, its traditions a closely guarded secret. George Bennett's name became a whisper on the wind, a cautionary tale of a man who ventured too far, driven by ambition, only to become part of the eternal cycle of life and death that ruled the remote, enigmatic island.